the trip looks quite mellow and chill. Like it doesn't look like, you're going that hard, but in reality, like my heart rate was, above, above tempo, pretty much 9 and 10 hours a day, every day. So it was hard. And like the terrain was gruesome.
Welcome back to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Piaro, editor of the magazine. The podcast is back after an extended winter break, which, for me, featured watching a lot of cyclocross races, doing a bit of riding and cross-country skiing, and lining up more interviews for this pod for 2021. I'm excited about the chat in this episode. At the start, you heard cross-country rider Emily Batty speaking about a trip she did in 2020 that was supposed to follow the Tokyo Olympics. Of course, those games were postponed. However, Batty's tough but rewarding ride went ahead. Batty is a 2-time Olympian. She's won the National Cross-Country Championships at the elite level 5 times. She's claimed bronze in 2 World Championship competitions. Last year, Batty announced her departure from Trek Factory Racing. She had been with that organization for 12 years. In this interview, I tried to find out more about the support she'll have this year. We do know about her bikes. The conversation took place not too long after she announced that she is now riding Canyon bicycles. She could stop trying to keep her bikes from getting spotted when out on the trails near Victoria. That's where Batty and her partner Adam Morka have been since mid-January. So have a listen to hear more about the gruesome ride Batty took on. You'll also hear more about what she learned doing stage races. You'll hear about the tough and still ongoing process for making the Olympics. And Batty talks about taking time for self-discovery. Emily Batty, you recently moved to the Victoria area of BC. What drew you to the West?
Typically in the winter, Adam and I would pretty much up and move to a warmer climate, which has been in the past, usually Arizona, sometimes to Maui for a few weeks at a time, and primarily just so we can be outside and getting those hours on the bike that we need this time of year, that big volume. But this year, obviously, with the restrictions of driving to the U.S. right now, we're so limited with what we can do. So, we wanted to stay in Canada and just kind of play it safe. And Victoria is amazing for mountain biking, and we have a lot of new stuff on the horizon with new equipment. And it's a really, really inspiring place to come and ride. It's so green and lush here. There's been a few times I've been here in the past with the Canadian national team, so it's not entirely new, but there's so much variety when it comes to riding and training that it'd be hard to get bored of a place like this.
Green and lush, that sounds like the contrast to your regular stomping grounds in Ontario right now in January.
Yeah, I mean, we did drive our new team trailer out here to the West Coast. So when we left home, it was, we were actually postponed several days just because of how much snow we were getting at the time. And just driving on icy roads with the trailer was just a little bit too dangerous. So yeah, not quite green at home right now, but we're sure making up for it here in Victoria. And
where's your training at right now? Is it mostly base work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to keep all of the corners of the shape sharp, if you will, but primarily volume. And then kind of toward the race season is when you are somewhat forced to scale back on hours with traveling and everything. And by traveling, I mean the traveling I hope to be doing with everything so unknown. It's originally I was going to be racing by February, but it's looking more like the end of April, even into May now. So primarily miles and just working on all the different zones, but mostly just hours on the bike.
You mentioned your racing plans for the year. I want to get back into those a little later, but we're speaking not long after you announced that you have a new bike sponsor. You'll be riding Canyon this year. How long has that relationship been in the works?
Yeah, it's some really exciting news for us. I was just out riding with Adam for 3 hours on the trails, and I felt like I had 4 or 5 cups of coffee. I just couldn't stop talking. But I think it's this high that it's finally out in the open, and I don't have to hide the bike that I'm riding anymore, or like dress incognito. Like I can actually just start sharing how excited I am. And it's been in the works for a really long time. We really locked in a lot of relationships back in like January. So it's kind of been under the radar for a little while, but in hindsight, I mean, it's been, a decade getting to this point. It just certainly didn't happen overnight, but yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, but we're so keen and excited to share it with everyone.
I was going to ask about what you've been riding before the announcement. Did you black out your canyons? Like, how did you keep it on the down low and get out riding?
It's been tough, actually. And I think there are a few spy shots out there. But it's funny because, I mean, I would never not ride my Red Bull helmet. So if I really wanted to be cognito, I wouldn't wear it. But I absolutely did. So yeah, I have been riding the Canyon Lux, and it's actually pretty blacked out as it is. It is the one that's in the photos, but it's not big flashy logos at the time. So I just kind of picked the hours of day that I was going out and, in public, and avoiding trails on the weekend is really difficult to do. But, with the pandemic, the trails are so busy, which is an amazing thing. And you learn quickly what time to go training and what time to kind of avoid the trails.
Yeah, I guess you have to be a bit strategic. You mentioned the Lux, and will you also be riding the Hardtail Exceed?
Yeah. I'll have those two line up for the racing, and then all the other bikes for all the other disciplines for training and everything. But those will be my 2 race bikes. So I have one of each right now, and we've been riding and testing it for several months, and absolutely over the moon with the equipment, and yeah, it's just also new and exciting, and it's fun actually, because a lot of these trails out here are so technical. A lot of stuff that you would see on a World Cup, whereas home in Ontario is more smooth and you can pedal through corners, whereas out here it's super technical, chunky. You almost have to stop talking at times, because if you lose focus, you're going to wheel stall or you're going to bash a pedal. So it's tricky, and it's kind of cool to have this new equipment to like really push the dial and to test the equipment.
Before Canyon, you were with Trek. In 2020, your time at Trek Factory Racing came to an end. You were with that team for 12 years, and your relationship with Trek is even older than that. Tell me about how that relationship evolved.
I was with the brand for, over 12 years, which is, I'm so grateful for having their support over the years. And it's been pretty cool to have one company alongside for all that time. And for sure, I'm going to miss the engineers and the people working in the factory. And yeah, it's been good. It was always difficult. Every contract renewal, it's always difficult. And it seemed to get more and more difficult as the years went on. To be completely transparent, I was really wanting to make a change back in 2016, but I just didn't have everything lined up, and I wasn't quite ready to make the move and sign another 2-year contract in 2018, which, after the high of having such an amazing year that year. And I wasn't quite ready to make change. Change is difficult to do. And, but it gets more and more difficult as time goes on. So when I ended 2018, signed for another 2 years. But I kind of knew that it wasn't what I'd want it to do then again. And yeah, it slowly evolved, but I think that's kind of the most amazing thing about growing as people and as athletes. Hopefully opportunities to learn what works for you and what creates the most, best surrounding and environment for your happiness and performance.
In August of 2020, your partner, who you've mentioned, Adam Morka, announced that he was starting a new team that would be at World Cups. Currently, what is your connection with that team?
Without disclosing too much, I'm definitely a people person, and the energy and the surrounding environment is essential to my happiness. So I know what works for me, and what Adam is doing is what we've been dreaming of for so long. So yes, Adam is going to be team owner and team director and manager and taking care of all of that. And it's a program that we've developed together and, brought together some incredible partners. And we've been able to be so fortunate and to sign partnerships with people and brands that really align with our visions and what we want to do going forward. So it's super exciting. I do want to talk more about it. There is an official team launch kind of on the horizon, so I don't want to give everything away, but it's exciting and there's still lots to come.
Yes, announcements are coming and we are looking forward to hearing those. What's also coming is race season, I think, eventually. It's sort of hard to plan in 2021. Have you had a chance to set any goals for 2021?
I mean, we keep hearing it over and over, but just the unknown is something that we really have to be adaptable and constantly just, reevaluating and readjusting and not putting those expectations. I think really all we can do right now is maintain the fitness that you want to have for that time of year. And I've always been an athlete that can really focus and hone in when I need to. So as long as I maintain a base fitness level, and I mean, I'm not kidding myself, that's a full-time job and every day is devoted to just even maintaining that. But yeah, no, being able to scale back and really, really hone in when we need to is, I hope, what we get to look forward to. But I think with just seeing how the World Cup shaped up at the end of 2020, I think we are going to see the World Cups happen. They were quite successful with the format that they had laid out. And I think I was there for 3 weeks. I'd been tested 6 different times. So the testing protocols over there that, I guess they're able to hire out private companies to come and test. So I think you're going to see it happen. I think you're going to see maybe there's a fewer amount of races, and maybe you might see us doing a little bit more what you saw last year with 2 races back to back in the same location. But I feel pretty confident that the World Cups at least are going to happen. I don't know about the national races, and my original plan had me starting in February. So that's already been scratched off the agenda and looking more like that April, May start to the year.
And what do you think those first races will be in April, May?
I was going to start with a few of the U.S. Cups and then even Pan Am Games in Puerto Rico, but I don't think they're happening. I think Pan Am is still happening, but I don't think the points are qualifying, to be honest. So I don't know if the travel and the risk is quite worth it. So we'll kind of reassess. And as of right now, the World Cups start in May. So we've got some time between now and then, but time goes so quickly.
I can imagine, and I can just imagine the sort of the never-ending limbo that you feel that you're in with just trying to plan your season. Another thing that maybe is a bit of limbo is Olympics. They were supposed to happen last year in 2020. They're scheduled for 2021 as we speak. I believe they're still going on, this moving target. And also, though, to remind listeners, there are only 2 spots for Canadian women in the cross-country race. They haven't been decided yet. Most cycling disciplines have been decided right now, except for cross-country. The top contenders for women's cross-country are you, Catherine Pendrell, and Hayley Smith. Is there any sense of when the limbo you riders have been in for well over a year, when that limbo will be settled?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey for sure. The last 2 Olympics, 2012 and 2016, have had a very opposite approach to the qualifying process. So I feel like this is just another kind of epic way to earn that spot. And it's pretty cool that Canada has 3 potentials, going for these spots. But it is a shame that we didn't get a top 2 ranked country so that we were able to bring 3 riders. As it stands right now, we are able to bring 2. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I've raced with Catherine for pretty much my entire career. So, I mean, she's a great friend. She's a role model. She's an inspiration, but she's also someone I owe a lot of credit to for the success that I've had, because she's been so amazing with racing and her results and what she's been able to accomplish, that I've always had that as my benchmark growing up and coming through the ranks. And now with Haley, it's pretty cool to see somewhat of like the next generation from Catherine. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle, but and with Catherine's pregnancy, it's amazing. I feel like if anyone can come back, she's going to be the one to probably do it. So she's definitely still on the roster of potentials. So I don't know. It's going to come down to basically the first 2 World Cups is how the criteria is set as of now. I don't know. I think a lot of it's going to come down to who's basically the fittest come that time, and maybe a bit of committee choice in the background.
I understand that you are aiming for the 2024 Olympics as well. Tell me what's motivating you for that goal.
I feel like come this next Olympics, it's only going to be 2 years away, or 2.5 years away. And with the amazing thing about cycling is you can compete, as we've seen time after time, until you're pretty much ready to pack it in. It's not necessarily a thing that, you have to retire by 25. It's whenever you mentally can pack it in, because we see 40-year-old women succeeding in the World Cups all the time. So come 2024, I will be 36. So, I mean, my goal is to absolutely be there for that 4th one.
In a 2018 article in Canadian Cycling Magazine, you spoke about the speed at which things happen in your life. The races, events, sponsorship-related work, feeding social media. You're busy. In 2020, did things slow down for you?
It's weird. Like, time definitely slowed. No, I guess time didn't slow down. I guess my career life did slow down. Yeah, time stayed fast for sure. And I don't know. It almost was a blessing in disguise, because we've never been, you're on this, you're in this like tunnel essentially when you become a professional. From the time that you have success and trying to stay there is far more difficult than standing on the podium, just that 1 or 2 times. It's so difficult. So we've never really had this time to forcefully, reflect and not travel and be home and discover who you are and reevaluate your goals and what your values are. Like, we've never had time, like true time. So for me, I guess life stayed quick, but that aspect slowed down quite a bit, which was a blessing, because I really got to quiet down, because when you're traveling, like you're in the tunnel, right? Like you're from place to place and racing, you're training, you're recovering. It's a very repetitive go lifestyle. And I've been doing it for, 20 years of my life. So it was different for sure. It was different for everybody. But I think things slowed down for sure. I was able to do a lot of other things in my life and kind of rechannel what this next chapter is truly going to look like, or what I hope it to look like.
In those moments of reflection that maybe you were afforded last year, what did you discover?
I'm a people person. I'm a very hands-on person. I know the passions that I have stay and motivate me every day. I really want to build out a few of my projects behind the scene, like the Emily Batty project. Working on a few business ideas that I and Adam have had for some time, and being able to kind of have that time to work on those ideas, mostly sport related, and how to, get more people on bikes and keep them in the sport is a big initiative of ours. And we're still always learning, of course, but it was cool to have that time.
You started off 2020 pretty strongly. In February of last year, you were 2nd at the Mediterranean Epic, and you were 3rd overall at the Cyprus Sunshine Epic with Evie Richards. Those were your first stage races. What drew you to those races? Stage
racing is a thing that I think is here for a little while. I'm not sure how they're rearranging the point system going forward. There are rumors of it no longer counting for cross-country World Cup points. But initially, with the Europeans being able to race in Europe at such an early time of year. I think, some of them have like 9 and 10 races before we even have the opportunity in North America to have one race. So it was part of training and fitness and experience, but it was really about point collecting as well, because we just don't have the races here in North America. It was a matter of being over there and collecting points, because all of these points in that window before they had froze them was going toward your UCI point system, which determined your World Championship start line position as well as your Olympic start line position. So, I mean, everyone was chasing points wherever they could get them. And at the time, the stage races were counting toward the cross-country point system. So it was a matter of like, okay, this is going to work fabulously with training. And we actually used it as a test pilot with working with my brother, who's a former pro roadie. He raced for Steve Bauer's team for over 6 years, and amazing guy. And he's a mechanic by nature, and yeah, he's incredible. So him and I went over and did all of these races, which was it was so new to myself. But Mark has so much knowledge and history with racing stage races on the road, so he was able to shed a lot of knowledge my way. And it was also new. We've been racing the same World Cup circuit for some time now, so it was really cool to have a different venue and a different format. And like now we're racing 2 days a week with the short track, but to do 4 races back to back, it was a new adventure, but it was super cool and so rewarding having Mark there, and it's just the two of us, so it was pretty special.
And ultimately, you enjoyed the racing, or what did you think of it? The back to back racing.
Day one, it was like, holy cow, how are we going to do this all over again tomorrow? Like, you're so exhausted. And then, Mark was like, by day 3, you're actually going to probably feel better than you did day 1. And sure enough, like just you found a rhythm. We found like this really nice rhythm of like, get up, go, everything was packed, rehearse. And then you go and you crush it. And it's not just 90-minute race. These are like 3 and 4 hour race days. So they were quite long. But it was really cool when you put so much effort into the recovery between the stages, how quickly you do bounce back. And the resilience of what the body can do is pretty spectacular. And I was able to learn that by doing these races.
Skipping ahead in the race season, how did you find the compressed and very short cross-country season later in 2020?
I think it carried over that bit of experience racing those stage races into the format that they had mapped out for us for the World Cups in September there. I think we raced 2 World Cups and 2 short tracks in 1 week alone in Czech Republic. I think a lot of people with no stage race experience would have, and I certainly would have without the early spring experiences, would have been quite nervous at like, how quickly can I turn this around? How quickly can I recover for the next event? And that definitely carried over quite well. But it was hectic. It was super busy for World Cup events in under, I think it was even under 6 days to be honest. So it was busy, but it worked out because we didn't have to travel between. We were just stationed in Czech Republic. So it was pretty cool. I don't know if I would like that format going forward. That was a lot of racing in 1 week. Because for a World Cup, you have to find that extra gear, extra mental space in your mind. Like it's hard to go there. It's actually your mind that needs to recover more than your physical being.
Another event that featured in 2020 for you in August was that you went bikepacking in Iceland. It was 9 days and more than 900 kilometers, and it was planned in January of that year, actually. I understand it was supposed to be a post-Tokyo Olympics retreat, but with the Olympics postponed, what did that trip become for you?
My oldest brother, actually, so I was just talking about Mark, who's a year and a half older, but I have another brother, Eric, who actually introduced the sport to our family way back. And he's also long retired from being professional, and he's stayed in the sport since day one, and he still trains. Like they're both arborists by trade, and they have their own companies. But Eric still, I think, trains. He's one of those guys, you get home from working for 10 or 12 hours and he still squeezes in an hour and a half ride or, a 20K run. Like he's always being super active. So he and Chris Burkhardt, actually from California, famous photographer, incredible person, started talking, I guess maybe even last year, and then really structured this dream journey of theirs in January, and had asked Adam and I if we wanted to join. And I, being naive, of course, I'm going to go to Iceland, like post Olympics. We actually timed it to be right after the Olympics. So yeah, it was something completely unfolding in the background, and we were so fortunate. We did get it's like a special letter saying that you can access based on tourism, and we had to follow a really strict protocol when we landed and what we did immediately upon arrival. And we basically just went, Chris has a place there, so we went from the airport to his condo, and then early next morning we were out basically driving the outback. So we were super remote, and it was a well-planned event. And I guess it wouldn't really be called an event. It was a well-planned life expedition. And it was cool because, when the races started, canceling and they were just coming off the list faster than you could realize. I think a lot of athletes struggled with finding purpose with what they were training for. And I think a lot of maybe people did suffer from just not having anything on the horizon. And I'm an athlete that definitely needs, like, I'm so goal oriented, and I love and need purpose and structure. And I love to have those targets set and know why I'm doing what I'm doing and just have so much intention. So for me, it was actually kind of cool because I didn't get as, down on myself because the races were coming off the calendar. I still had purpose for being on my bike for 5 or 6 hours. And it really opened up my eyes. Like at home when I'm training or wherever I'm training, everything is always so structured and there's very little exploring happening. Whereas with being home and training for this bikepacking adventure, I was able to ride, roads at home that I didn't even know existed. And I've been riding for 20, 25 years. So that was super fun, and was able to ride with family, and just do these monster rides with purpose was definitely meaningful.
Could you see bikepacking as a means to train for cross country?
It depends what kind of cross-country discipline you're looking at. For cross-country racing, I don't think the hours that you would have to do, with bikepacking would quite cross over very well. I think the long endurance has some effect, but I think you lose a lot of that top-end speed. And for sure, I knew I was sacrificing that top-end speed, even with the races happening at the end of the year. But it was an experience that I kind of was willing to make that sacrifice, because I'd known this year is just way too unpredictable, and nobody really knew what was happening or what would happen in the end. So I think it maintained a lot of fitness. It definitely gave me a lot of purpose and excitement on the bike being at home. But do I think the skills of just or maybe not skills, but just the things that you gain from bikepacking, those amount of hours, cross over to cross-country racing? I mean, I'm sure it has its place, but definitely World Cup racing takes a really, really sharp sword to compete at that level. So I think the hours would definitely impact that sharpness.
Do you think you'll be doing more bikepacking?
For me, I really enjoyed the bikepacking. It was not easy. And I think what was kind of interesting with doing a few of the vlogs that I had done on the whole trip and that I've got on YouTube, you really only have the camera out when it's really smooth, or when it's not too windy, or when you actually, aren't exhausted. So the trip looks quite mellow and chill. Like, it doesn't look like, you're going that hard, but in reality, like, my heart rate was, above, above tempo, pretty much 9 and 10 hours a day, every day. So it was hard. And the terrain was gruesome, but yeah, it was surreal. And I would do it again in a heartbeat, but I would, probably plan somewhere else before I'd go back and do Iceland, but I would love to do it again someday.
About 3 years ago, you assessed the trajectory of your career. You characterized the first part as a time with optimism and growth. Next was a time of increased noise and people looking less at your successes and more at your misses and failures. Where are you now in your career? Or how does your career feel to you right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We never really know what's on the horizon for us. We love to, by nature, plan what we want to see happen. But the reality is, and what we have all been forced to learn this year is that we all have to be really adaptable. For sure, the trajectory, honestly, I've been quite proud of the trajectory of my entire career. It's always been in zooming out, of course, it's always been, and I think most, people's lives zoom out far enough. It is an upward trajectory, and growth is happening naturally in the background. And I'm really proud of where I am today. And it's pretty cool with our sport. Like we'd said earlier, you can do it for so long. And even after racing, people ride bikes until you're not even able to walk. So it's literally a lifestyle. But no, I'm really happy with where I've come and what, challenges we've overcome, and the results we've got and successes we've had along the way. And I feel like there's so much I want to do off the bike, but absolutely, focusing on performance in the next 3 and 4 years is still my primary goal. So I have a lot to achieve still, but with all the highs comes all the lows for sure. And it's been very challenging along the way, but that's the path that I've chosen. I continue to choose it every year.
You've been racing since you were 13, which means you've been at it for almost 20 years. What change in cross country throughout the past 20 years really stands out for you?
Definitely a lot has changed over the last 15, 20 years. For sure, equipment and just the engineering that goes into the equipment alone. You look back at some photos when you're 15 years old and you kind of wonder how you were able to do some features and some of the trails that we were able to. But for sure, the evolution of the equipment is, I think, the most impressive. On the World Cup circuit, were just the geometry and the materials that are used. We're doing stuff that, what downhill bikes were doing way back when. So seeing the evolution of equipment is really cool for me. I know, not all athletes are into like the tech side of things, but I've really enjoyed that process and being part of the evolution too. The other thing I think is branding. I think most athletes nowadays really have to focus on, if they choose to, but endorsements and sponsorships are kind of how we make ends meet, and really having to learn, that yourself as an athlete is a form of a brand, and learning how to navigate that and learn your values and really be true to yourself. I think that's kind of been cool, rather than just in the past it was, you're a person that races bikes and here are your results. It's really a holistic view on your career as a whole. And I think that's pretty surreal as well, is the access of athletes and all athletes having that access with their fans, with technology and the cameras that we have today, and just the smartphones, and being able to have that instant satisfaction of connecting with fans. We never certainly had that back in the past. You only had access at the venues if that athlete, were to take the time, and most wouldn't. But I think technology with the equipment and access to your followers has been incredible.
You are definitely someone who is, I would say, very engaged with her fans. And you did sort of mention that, it's not a given that an athlete has to be engaged, but it's become more and more an expectation. But I feel like you've always been very engaged, even maybe before social media gave that access to fans. Nonetheless, you have a close relationship with your fans. What does that give you?
It's been so important because I am a people person. I get energy when I'm engaged with, people and new people and faces and stories and experiences. So I really do gain joy knowing that, I've taken that time to appreciate those that had come out to the venue, or those that had cheered you on, or those are people behind, social media that write often and send best wishes all the time. Like I read everything that comes through online that has my name tagged to it. I really do value the people that take time So for me, it's been part of who I am. I kind of grew up on a pretty simple life. I grew up on a farm, and we worked for everything we had as a family, and everybody had, responsibilities and a part in the family. And I think, I learned, at least from a very young age, that appreciation doesn't go unnoticed. And I certainly don't want anyone that's ever supported me in any way to not feel that I'm super grateful, because I am. And it's sometimes difficult, when you're at the venue and getting, staying at the venue, maybe, 45 minutes to anywhere up to like 4 hours after the events. Sometimes that gets a little bit draining. It's probably not the best for recovery, but it's rewarding in its own. So it's always been worth it for me.
You mentioned one of the challenges of that close relationship. Maybe you're out longer at the races, but does your close relationship with fans present any other challenges?
Well, I have so many memories of being a kid and being at these races when our families were, coming to spectate or support our brothers. And, even Gun Rita, for example, Chrissy Redden, a Canadian, amazing person, and still is involved with the sport. And Gun Rita was another one that, after the race, she had acknowledged that I was there. I was maybe like 13, looking up over the barriers and, calling her name. And she maybe made eye contact, whatever it was, like whatever she'd done at that time. It was so mesmerizing that, wow, there was a human behind those eyes. And it really spoke to me. And sometimes when you'd seen a professional speak to an athlete, just how the glory, like you can feel the glory and you can feel the passion that the child or the kid, has with those interactions. So I really, I don't know. I think I just know the importance that it has to have that time with people, anybody, any age really. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a give and take, but it is always so rewarding to spend time with people after events, or even just on the trails, like going up to our trails at home or even here. Like it's really hard I'm the kind of person that you probably don't want to ride with, because if you have an hour on the calendar, or sorry, on the workout, I'm going to be an hour 20 because I'm going to bump into somebody. so that's maybe a downfall.
You mentioned you're goal oriented. You're very driven. As a result, often it can be the things that go wrong in races that stick with you afterwards. For example, I remember reading that your crash and broken clavicle at the 2012 London Olympics frustrated you for quite some time. So in contrast to that, what then are moments in your career that bring you satisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, it's not been easy all these years. There's a lot of hard challenges that we've come through, but that was definitely one of them. And I think mostly because I was so caught off guard. I was young, I was invincible. I had a cape, like I was just so like prepared, and I was really like, I at the time I was the most fit. I had podium 2 weeks prior at a France World Cup. And I was just there to do what I'd, always dreamt to do. And that was podium at the Olympics. And that one really caught me off guard. And it really humbled me quickly that being present is invaluable. I think I was just so in such a state of flow at that time. I was almost ahead of myself. So I learned a lot for sure. And I was heartbroken because I never even dreamt that such a thing could derail a plan. So I learned that quickly. And I think a lot of the other high moments, my first world championship medal would be definitely a highlight that's always stuck with me, because that was another breakthrough experience. I think everything that stuck with me is an experience. It's not always a result. In fact, I bet 99% of the things I could think of aren't really result based. It's more the learning aspect. But the one that I do remember very vividly was crossing that finish line and sprinting actually for bronze at World Championships in Czech Republic with Maya, and then getting that. I feel like that was really that aha moment that, oh no, like you are meant to be here, because we all have self-doubt all the time. That's completely normal. So I think when I had hit that part of my career, I was like, whoa, like this is potentially a lot closer than I had thought.
Emily, I know there are many things still in the works for you. There are some more announcements to come this year. But is there anything you can tell us about what's ahead for you in 2021?
2021 is going to be, it's just really exciting. It's really hard not to, I don't know how to scale back. So just saying anything, I feel like is going to get me in trouble. Having, it's so important. I really want to have a say in this next part of my career. I really want to have a voice. I really want to work with partners that I find aligned with my morals and my visions. There's so much I want to do result-based and more. I think that's the key aspect is there's so much more I want to do and within the sport. And this next chapter is definitely been a long time in the making, but is it's like a foundation. And I feel like it's finally one I can stand on and be so proud of. It's going to be colorful. And that's about all I can say.
Well, I'm excited to see what's coming in the year ahead. Thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And that's the episode. It's written and edited by me, Matthew Piaro. I had help from web editors Terry McCall and Lily Hanson-Gillis. The podcast is produced by Adam Killick. He composed the music too. Thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. And thank you for listening. Please rate and review the show. Ride safely, whether indoors or out, and I'll talk to you later.